Hi, Warriors. Good whip around Wednesday. Who's, who's ready to get whipped around? Give me a Y.
Woo! Bring it,
Yeah.
baby.
All right, let's whip around. Ryan, you're going to whip around with us today?
Woo, woo.
All right, so we're going to whip around the team, which is the Three Musketeers are back here again. Hey, Bran, yeah, boredom. If you're bored with these markets, Bran, I don't know what to say. They're anything but, in my view. Maybe it's good that you're bored. That means that you're being selective. Hi, AJ, Patrick, Ingmar. Okay, it's Hump Day, Blake. Yeah, James, Ryan. Yeah, all right. Whip it real good. Wasn't that a song? All right. So, big recovery day, huge rally in yen. And these are the key events that really everything happened Monday. You have a key reversal in USD CAD, but it's got a couple of days. We took out last week's high, last week's low. We're on the verge of negating that triangle breakout. I think we're underneath it a little bit here. Yeah. Also, you're getting a reversal week to the upside. Makes sense in Aussie. Um, Actually, almost looks like a key reversal depending upon your time frame. But yeah, Aussie's doing it too. I think the off number is for Friday 65.47. So yeah, that's a nice candle. Um, okay, so commodity currencies really leading the way today. They didn't participate during risk off, but they're acting okay. I should have figured that if I was buying Aussie and I thought I had a chance to be right, that the market would also, that'd be part of a market recovery. So,
Dale, we've been talking about being long Aussie the last couple of days, and I
yeah,
bought it actually with full size yesterday at 65.05 as my cost average. And
yeah, nice. Yeah,
I think there's a risk that we continue to squeeze. Remember, we had this conversation yesterday about the that almost, I don't like to use the term capitulation, but we had a capitulated move going into yesterday. So pretty big moves.
yeah, Monday was really the
Yeah.
capitulation, and
Ha-
Monday's
ha-
lows are important in everything, or highs. Really the key. I mean, if we take out some of these lows, well, let's just say, S&Ps, if we take out Monday's lows, there's problems. And you know what? I'm still not convinced. A lot of people are saying new highs, but I think there's at least one more shot down here to take out these lows before that could happen. So, that's it because of this.
have you
Usually
seen
don't bottom
have
with
you seen
six.
the yen overnight,
Yeah,
Dale?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So,
I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to get to that, and I know Ryan's
so
gonna
okay. So I was
wrap a ton of
thinking about
comments about that.
this. I was actually talking to Jim Walsh yesterday and talking about that. I read that only half of the carry trade has been unwound, so there's still another chapter of that coming. But talked about that the market could rally with the yen. Maybe the yen rallies halfway back. This was 20 handles, and you know 150, 152. I'd be selling the yen
So
again.
that's interesting. You mentioned that, Dale, because Ryan on the Flow Show, and Ryan, you can talk about this because I think it's important. Ryan had mentioned on the Flow Show this morning, and by the way, I was up so early because I was meeting with one of our traders from Sydney, Australia. So I got up at 3 o'clock this morning, Dale, to meet with
Yeah,
um, I'll just mention his first name, Scott from Sydney. He's one of our traders, been with us for a while. And I had a one-on-one with him. Oh, hey there he is, Scott. And good morning, and well, good evening for you. Anyway, before meeting with him, I was listening to the Flow Show, and on the Flow Show, Ryan, you were talking about the carry trade and how much of it has been covered. How do we know how much of the carry trade has been covered up this far, or do we?
We don't. That's the thing. People have got to realise, okay, the carry thing is just one part of this. It's not the be all and end all of it all. There's, if you compare it to, Japanese big whales, the GPIF and all the investment firms and pension firms, whatever, the carry trade is a drop in the ocean compared to what those guys move around. And so I think it's becoming an easy excuse or an easy headline for market writers and commentators to make. Okay, not every move in the end is to do with the carry trade, but it's as I say, it's an easy headline to write. I mean, if you look at something like dollar mex, as I said, if you were short dollar mex in big money at the 20s, 22s, 23s, okay, you've sat in the trade and you've earned carry. You've also made on the FX movement. So people could have been, big money could have been out months ago when we were trading down towards 16s, because they've earned the money and they've on the carry, and they've earned the money on the FX move. So we don't know who's in and out or whatever. Yes, obviously it's still a big part of trading. There's still some volatile moves in some currencies, but don't take the lazy route and say that everything that happens in the yen is carry trade.
Okay. I promise.
If you do, I'll have to whip you.
Famous last words. I promise I won't divulge that. I won't use that as a scapegoat when I'm wrong something else. That damn carry trade. That'll be the new thing. I got burned by the carry trade is what people are going to say.
Copper. Yeah, burned in copper.
It's simply amazing how everybody is a yen expert now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I heard that business at most sushi restaurants went up dramatically in the last week.
Yeah, people are going to end up going to the elevator or oh shoot, it's too early in the morning. Never mind. I was going to crack, but I can't even.
All right, so why don't we? I mean, it's part of the risk. Risk off. It was part of risk off. So, I want to ask Ryan. Does this look like the big beginning of a bull move?
A bull move? Oof, it looks a bit like a recovery move after the move off. Again, it's context. You look at that. We've come off, 500 handles from top to bottom, over 500 handles.
Yeah.
And as usual, again, you're looking at the press. It's the end of the world. Go on to a weekly chart, and it's a minor pullback that couldn't even get to the 38.2 fib of the last big swing up. So, you always need to look at context in these moves. Can we push higher? Yeah, certainly. I think there's still some.
What would you do here? And maybe it's going to happen. This is what I'm waiting for. It probably may not even get there, but this would be kind of a logical. I mean, I ask myself before I go the other way, if I'm long, right? If I was fortunate enough to be long, where would I be taking TPs? And that's it right here. I mean, this 54 held, and we tried to rally for a day, lose a day, a sharper, and then boom. So
I'm on 52.12, so I've been slicing every sort of 15, 20 ticks we move higher. If you look left a little bit, if you just zoom out a little bit, that 53, 40 area, 50 area is a bit of a level as well. You just if you sort of stick a line in there, you'll see it. So that's another area. But yeah, 54, that's your big test. 53.90, 54. That tells you, are we going to maintain this trend down off the high? I think it's roughly about the 50% move of the move back up. If we don't break that, then that keeps the downtrend in play off the highs. If we break that, well, there's every chance we go on to tackle out those highs again. And then everyone gets bullish, and then you make David Hunter's on for 6,000 again, or 7,000, or whatever he was looking at.
Okay, well, I have to think that these Super Bowls, and I know we're getting a recovery in Russell, but I would say that the broadening out narrative, which is why a lot of people wouldn't get short even after a key reversal. Oh no, market's broadening out. This is what we've been looking for.
Yeah.
I think I said what led the market up would lead the market down. That's exactly what happened. You can't, would the Russell save the day? If anything, it actually, when we got that NFP print, the Russell actually exacerbated the sell-off because it had the biggest one. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I could get bullish Russell. Um, you know,
You can get bullish or a bit bullish if it gets above. We had those prior highs looking at May. We got support right here, this 207, 208 area. If it gets above that and starts holding, well, that gives you a little bit of a key to try
yeah.
along.
So it would end up looking like a COVID low, only
Yeah,
on a much smaller fractal that
yeah,
happened in days, mainly a day, right? I mean,
yeah,
most of this happened in 36 hours, so this would be like a mini COVID event. I still can't
yeah.
get out of
And
my head.
you've got to look. You've got to match
I'm
it
going to
off
tell you
against.
guys something, and I've learned it more than once. All right, um, don't buy VIX options because the people who should have gotten very rich here, I had 20 calls, which meant that they would have been, at least $20 intrinsic value, which would have been a 10 bagger. Um, they weren't putting premium into them. They didn't go. Uh, it was a double instead of a 10 bagger. So, there were no trades when this was going on. You couldn't, and there weren't really, it kind of reminded me of how those guys felt in the movie. What was the movie about the 2008 recession? The Big Short, was that it?
Yep.
Okay. And those guys were right for months, and the brokers were doing something, manipulating the price of the contracts, holding them, and they weren't getting paid. They were actually losing money while the housing crisis was happening for a while, and they didn't get paid. Eventually, they had to go to market, but don't trade VIX calls because
Yeah.
it should have been a home run ball,
You,
guys.
you
I
know the
bought.
thing the,
Go
the
ahead.
thing about those and you're talking about something I was just having a conversation with Scott in Australia about is when you trade a lot of especially options you have to be really good on your timing, right? Because you can have the right idea, but if the time is wrong, that risk premium just melts away and the payout eventually is crap. And so like with any trade that you take, and this is something that's really
Well,
important for
this is
traders to
different.
understand.
The trade worked. The vehicle
Right.
was crooked. They weren't making a market at realistic prices. It's
Mm.
not, I know options are, look, I say options are like relationships. 90% of them expire worthless. But those 10%, if you're a decent market timer and you buy enough time, you could catch something like this. But to catch something when I was buying calls down here and only have a double when it should have been a 10 bagger, is saying that it's a crooked game. It's
But
crooked.
that move was probably because everyone's been selling vol for months
Right.
and months and
Well,
months,
that's
and
why I was
so
buying them.
yeah,
That's why
and
I
so
was
when you get
buying
a
them.
spike, everyone's trying to get out. All the ones who
Well,
trying to
how
bank
come they
premium.
didn't pay up for the VIX calls that they sold? There was no, if they were trying to get out, they should have been trying to cover their short call
Yeah.
positions that they were short,
Yeah,
and they never did.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, that's
Anyway,
crazy.
most people aren't aware of it.
Yeah.
And I thought about it when Kirk was here yesterday. He said I don't know, quadrupled his VIX calls, and I want to know what strike he was in, because what I was in did not reflect the reality and intrinsic value you know, not premium, just some intrinsic, had plenty of
Well,
intrinsic.
well, Dale, I think you should reach out to Kirk, because I think a lot of people lie through their teeth and about what trades they're in and what they're doing, and especially when you talk about volatility, people don't talk about this. They're like, "Oh, I'm buying VIX," and it's like, "Yeah, what are you buying though, for real?
Yeah.
Like, tell us." But I'm going to show you something real quick, Dale, and I'm going to show everybody here. This is the ForexAnalytix chat room. Here's the trades room. And if you want to know, I just closed out long Euro Swiss and long Aussie dollar, which was almost a full size position. And my last position on the board is still long Euros from last week.
Yeah.
If you want to know what we're trading at all times, and you want and not just me, but you want to see what Ryan's doing, K-Man, when he's around, you should be in the ForexAnalytix chat room, because you can see what we're doing. And Ryan's talking about slicing off a piece here and there. You can see Ryan just at 3:17 a.m., which was exactly 2 hours ago, said slice off my S&P longs at 5,300. Ryan, where were you long from? And we could go back and
52.12, and I got a bit lucky because I had my stop at entry, and the low today was 52.13. So
all right, and that's an awesome trade. And like, you know, Dale's like, well, what were you buying? You know, when you're talking to especially VIX, I mean, or volatility, it's like, I don't trade volatility. I look at volatility. I don't trade it. I look at it to help manage what I'm doing.
Well,
in other
there were some
positions.
products, the options didn't work, but if you had bought like the VIXX, or you made a killing. It's just
Yeah,
that the
one of those
options,
highly leveraged,
yeah,
ETFs.
any kind of VIX derivative that's not an option.
So
So options aren't options for me anymore.
So when you're in a chat room like this is Michael, who's also in Australia. He says that copper, and he's talks about copper, and we go into this conversation. These are the conversations that you should be having with other traders. You know, talking about what's happening. And I'm gonna go to the copper chart really quick, and I'm gonna come back to yen, because I'm gonna give you my dollar yen analysis. And I'm not going to do the rest of the yen pairs, because I'm going to reserve that for the ForexAnalytix community, because there's a lot of what I want to do has more to do with these crosses versus what's happening in the dollar yen. But the dollar yen, you could look as the linchpin to it all. So I'm going to just cover that for you guys. But first and foremost, let's go into copper. And I think the observation here is copper is not bouncing. So if you are a believer in you know, global expansion and contraction, and you start looking at the doctor, I think the doctor, meaning Dr. Copper, this is a chart that really should have your attention. And this is a chart that really suggests to me that buying in equities or in risk, quote unquote, risk in general, is probably going to be somewhat limited. All right. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on copper and this lack of ability for it to move?
Well, as I replied to Michael, that that looked purely fundamental. You know, we had the poor ISM manufacturing. You got Germany in a slump. Global growth, China still scraping along the floor. There's no reason to be buying copper because there's no demand there, and copper is a growth index, if you like. And you know, again, that goes back to your Aussie dollar. If you looked at the copper chart, would you be so keen to buy Aussie dollar right now?
Yeah.
So that perhaps tells you that this Aussie dollar move is more US dollar than Aussie dollar. You know, a bit of a bounce off of that big low that we made.
Yeah.
But you know, you can take markets for risk or whatever. The copper for me is more a fundamental thing, and it just shows you the state of the global economy, which is still, you know, that picture's still bubbling, and that story's still bubbling under the surface amongst everything else, carry trades, elections, wars, everything else. You know, we've still got economies around the world that are still sort of bumping along the floor, and that's not good for commodities like copper.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what Dale is going to like this one. What's probably more good for commodities or a commodity is what's happening in crude oil right now, because we have an inverted head and shoulder pattern, and we're breaking out to the upside this morning.
Warren,
so what's that?
God, for?
Oh God, let's not sing
What
that.
is it good for?
But
Absolutely nothing.
but you can see, guys, there's different ways to play the current environment. You know, if you're looking at copper, yeah, copper doesn't look bullish, but damn, crude oil looks like I've been sitting here scratching my head for the last couple of days, wondering why crude isn't bounced. But now, if you look at like the candlestick pattern, that's a piercing line. That's a very bullish pattern, especially if we close at these levels or higher tomorrow or today, excuse me. That's going to be a very bullish move. And look, I'm just trying to give you guys
ties in with Canada, Blake, the Canada top.
Oh yeah, Canada has reversed, but I don't know if I would short this if the market's about ready to roll over. I think the FX market might be a little bit different as far as a play goes. Matter of fact, you want to see a currency that's holding up really well is the dollar MEX. I mean, the dollar MEX is holding well above 19. Dips have been very minor, even as we've seen a little bit of a recovery in equities. So you look at the dollar MEX and it's still, you know, I mean, it came out of a bullish wedge. So theoretically, it made its first target, but its secondary target, if you look at its secondary target, it goes well past 20 and closer to 21. And you know, when it's just holding out and hanging out in breakout territory, the dollar Mexican peso looks like it can squeeze further. And if it does, that is an indication that equities are probably about ready to roll over again. Speaking of which, I want to go to the dollar yen because this is obviously a trade that I've been really focused on. Yesterday, we talked about if we could break above the 24% retracement, which is 46.50. I actually was driving down the road when it was breaking out last night, and as soon as I got home, I jumped in the, you know, on the trade station and started telling everybody, hey, we've finally broken out. Now we're challenging the underside of the trend line, which is the broken channel, as you can see here, that has been in existence since the beginning of 2023. So the underside of that trend line comes in somewhere where we're at. You know, I could argue that it's somewhere between 147 and 149, because the way that I have my trend lines drawn doesn't mean that's the same way that the head yen trader at Goldman Sachs has his or her trend line drawn, or at Barclays, or I mean at Barclays or wherever. You know, the thing is I know we are approaching a really key resistance after a very big move lower. You had every person under the sun that knows nothing about the yen buying yen the last couple of days. They're probably about ready to be done getting squeezed out. So realistically, following, you know, Achita's comments, and by the way, Ryan, what is the predominant mover from Achita's comments other than he's saying that really that monetary policy could be loosened again? What was his intention?
Well, he's a dove first and foremost, so you have to take that into consideration. The comment that moved it, and it did make me laugh, because the comment that moved that 300 pip move
right here.
Said, yep. we won't hike rates where markets are unstable. So he kept the market unstable by that comment and saying we must maintain a degree of monetary easing, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of hours after that, he came out and said, we need to be careful about communications to market, after sending it 300 pips higher. So he shot himself in his foot with that. But yeah, just saying that while we've got this volatility, the Bank of Japan aren't going to, or potentially aren't going to do any more monetary policy moves, because they don't know how these moves are going to affect their outlook and whatnot. But,
yeah, and you know, I guess, you know, I mean, you had to imagine, and I know K-Man actually mentioned this yesterday before he left. He said yesterday, and if you weren't here listening into this show yesterday, he said we're probably going to hear from the Bank of Japan and maybe even the Swiss National Bank to kind of smooth things down or smooth things out a little bit, which we've gotten. And I'm going to argue that at this point in time, we are nearing, and again, I'm just reiterating, in my opinion, excuse me, I'm sorry, I just choked on my own drink here. We're heading into a level where we're going to start to see some yen strength come in, especially if equities roll over. Now, I want to ask you this, Ryan, really quick before we wrap things up. Do you think the yen will take on the role? And I know I asked this question last week, but I'm asking you because today's different than last week. You think the yen might pick up that award on the mantle again to being a risk-off type of trade if we have stocks pushing lower? Because I don't know about the dollar and I don't know about the yen, and we haven't seen risk off enough or long enough to really gauge that. What do you think?
Yeah, it depends what you're talking about risk off. You know, the yen's always a safe haven currency. It's a repatriation currency for the Japanese. So in that sense, yes. What was interesting and sort of plays into that comment or what you're alluding to is the Nikkei went the same way over those Yoshida comments. Okay, so here we have a dovish talking central banker, and then we see stocks rising and yen weakening. So my thought is, are we seeing a similar switch now to the US, what we've had through the US, when we get a dovish Fed head, you know, if we're not hawkish, then stocks rise. So I don't know if we're moving into that, because we haven't seen that really in the Nikkei. It doesn't follow, you know, dovish, hawkish slants.
Yeah.
But it did last night. So I don't know is the honest answer. We've had a big hit here, and now we're just sort of seeing the aftershocks from it, if you like.
Yeah, and I'm
Where
gonna
it settles is going to be important.
now. Bill doesn't think the yen would be risk off, but I'll tell you what, I do. And I think that the yen, you have to be really careful with it if equities start rolling over. I think not only the dollar yen, and this is you can throw it in the repatriation book or camp or bucket if you want. You can put it in the just Pavlonian bucket if you want. But I think that you see the markets come down, and this Aussie yen is going to come absolutely unglued. Kiwi yen unglued, Canadian yen unglued, and you're going to see those drop at a very aggressive rate. So I'm gonna urge that you all you're very cautious with the yen should stocks start to aggressively move from here. And,
Yeah,
and I guess
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I think you need to watch the Nikkei. The Nikkei
Yeah.
is driving it now. Is driving the yen. So where the Nikkei goes, the yen pairs are going to follow.
Okay, and that's a good segue into the S&P. And Dale, I have to say that the S&P is challenging some pretty key resistance at this point. This is a big resistance zone. It was a big support zone on the way down. It's a big resistance zone on the way up. Every day, we've taken a look at the markets, and I think that S&P, I've written every single day that the key resistance is at 52.85. We are literally sitting just slightly above it right now. You could say, well, it's the 38% retracement then, because over the last 3 days, we've actually just kind of challenged it. And that is going to be right here. Let's let me get this, and let's move that here. And you can see that 38% retracement is basically right around these levels. And if we can hold, and I'm going to talk as a bear right now, not as a bull, as a bear, if we can hold these levels, this is a very shallow retracement, which then begs the argument that we will see a continuation that will look something like this in the event that the stock market rolls over from here. So unless the bulls can get it together right now, or basically within the next 24 hours or so, if they don't, the risk is that we are trading below 5,000 within the next couple of weeks. And I'm not positioned. I'm not shorting the S&P. I just want everybody to have awareness of the lack of ability for the stock market to have any upside follow through. And I think that is worth noting going into the next couple of days of trade. All right. Dale, I know well, first of all, I don't know if we have data coming out today. I don't think we do. Is worth noting. There is the Canadian IV PMI, but that's in about an hour and 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's a ways off. So Ryan, any trades that you're looking at for today that everybody should be aware of?
Yeah, there's a couple out. Obviously, what's happening with stocks here, whether we can make, continue to make these gains. Euro sterling is one to keep an eye on. We keep bumping our head on this 86.10.20 area.
That's a 618 retracement.
Yeah, it goes back way back as well. It's one of those one of my old zones that goes back forever. So that's still an important level up there. I'm short up there as well, so needs to really get under 85.50 to take the puff out. And yeah, that dollar CAD. I've got knocked out my shorts, but it's coming back down. We could get a move down to the old 36.50 if it keeps going like this, and then we start getting interested, or I start getting interested in those low 36s again.
Awesome. All right, and guys, I'm just gonna say keep your eyes on the yen, because what happens in the yen is probably going to reflect what's happening everywhere else, and that crude oil looks like it's going to rip to $77 today. I'm just saying. And if you're in ForexAnalytix, you probably saw the pattern in play that's in right now. So, Dale, I'm going to pass it over to you. Who do you have as an interview today?
Andrew O'Connell, Pristine Capital, who's participating in, I think, the U.S. Trading Championship.
Oh, nice.
And,
All right. Well,
and,
I'm going to pass it
yeah.
over to you and have a great interview with Andrew. And I want to just reiterate, guys, if you are not part of ForexAnalytix, you're not in the chat room chatting with Ryan, myself, and all the other traders that are in our community, it's $1 for 10 days. Try it out. Jump in the chat room. You can get to it once you log in. You can get into it right here. But don't forget that you got a lot of tools in this dashboard that are available to you that, like your live squawk feed and all the analysis, Grega's analysis from Elliott waves, harmonic patterns. Make sure you check it all out and come join us in the chat room. We'll see you there. Dale, have a great day today. Have a great interview. Ryan, thank you so much for all your coverage. You've really got me up to speed today with the Flow Show that you broadcast every day. And Stelios, if he's listening in, happy 53rd birthday, buddy. I know we said happy birthday to you in the chat rooms and everything else. And he's running around taking care of his wife today, but happy birthday, Stelios, to one of our main guys here at ForexAnalytix. So
Sing it.
I can't, Dale. I'm a horrible singer. Everybody would actually, I'd break speakers. They would literally combust if I started singing right now.
I just thought, I thought I'd ask. Anyway, Ryan, how are you? Have a great day, man.
You too, mate. You too.
Nice content today. You too, Blake. You were talking really fast today, so I could tell you're excited. It's like
caffeinated, buddy.
Yeah, it's like, your pulse. And anyway, good session. And it's time to talk to Andrew O'Connell, who's, Andrew has been pretty transparent about what he does. He competes in these trading championships. How are your standings after the turbulence, Andrew, that we've had over the past 2-3 weeks?
Dale, what's going on, man? How are you? Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, great to have you back, buddy.
Thank you so much. Yeah, what's so crazy, Dale, is honestly, you're going to see this when I report my results, but my sequence throughout this has been pretty picture perfect. And
nice.
I made a lot of P&L on this event. So we can talk through, everything that we're seeing in the market and how this is all played out.
Okay. Why don't you share your screen then, buddy?
Yes, let me go ahead. And I think pretty much almost every time I come on your program, I'm almost always trading TLT and the bonds. That's one of my favorite things to trade. And that's how I was able to stay afloat in this big market turbulence and how I was able to make some P&L.
Yeah, nice move in bonds.
Yeah,
you think it ended yesterday?
No, so that is a fantastic point. You want me to jump right over to the bonds?
Yeah, go ahead. That's what you brought up.
Yeah, so let's
talk about TLT.
Yeah, so let's go over to TLT and I will show you the chart that I am
Oh,
trading.
okay. Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see here, what I noticed with these bonds was we started to get this kind of like narrowing formation over here.
Mhm.
And I've been trading the TLT pretty much throughout the year, trying to buy all these dips. I've primarily been using TLT call options. And some of the trades have been okay, small winners, some have been small losers. But I've kind of been waiting for that big explosive trade to the upside. And I ended up catching that right over here. So I was allocating to TLT really in this like 2 week zone over here where we were just kind of chopping and really the price action was narrowing. Then we ended up getting that catalyst. The inflation reports have been getting way better. And then we also got this panic in equities. And the bonds actually worked as they are intended to, where there was a growth scare. We got a weak jobs report. And then, yeah, the TLT just really moved out to the
How,
upside very
I,
quickly.
we know the history, Andrew. How now,
Yeah.
brown cow?
Yeah. So what I'm looking at now, I closed out of my TLT calls. Fortunately, I got hit with the broker outages, but I was able to sell out of my position in this red candle right up here. I'm looking for this gap fill. So I still think this bond trade is on because I think
Okay.
the inflation report that's going to come out next week is going to be light. So what I'm looking
Okay.
for in today's session is I would love to see a fill of this gap, and then I'm going to re-enter my position, not with the same level of size that I had earlier, because I don't really see us getting, another explosive move like this, but I'm definitely going to re-add my position and see if I can hold this one into the inflation reports next week.
Okay. So you've drifted quite a ways from originally your narrative was to hold cannabis stocks, and
Yes.
then right, and then now they're getting cheap. Are you interested in them now? They've gotten pretty cheap.
Yeah, so when the trend broke in the cannabis stocks, that's the main thing, especially for my trading contest. I have to be very flexible. So I'm not someone that like I come up with a view, doesn't work, and I stick with it. But
Yeah.
today of all days, I am actually looking at the cannabis stocks again. And the main reason why is because I noticed that in the polls, for a while, Donald Trump was winning in terms of betting odds. He was absolutely destroying Joe Biden. Now that Kamala Harris has stepped in for Joe Biden, those betting odds have actually flipped. And Kamala Harris is actually leading Donald Trump right now. So what I'm thinking is, hey, when Donald Trump was absolutely crushing it, there were some Trump trades. Like for example, like
Yeah.
DJT flipped to the upside, had like a crazy move. We saw energy take a dip to the downside. We saw China stocks take a dip to the downside. So as this sort of like, I guess like blue wave trade could come, I think cannabis could be a beneficiary of that. So I'm
You know
actually
what that looks like
starting
right
to
there
put
on
that
the
on.
daily? What we had on Monday, and is that what we're getting today, or that was yesterday? The green candle.
This was yesterday.
Okay. Well, that gap down
Hmm.
turns out to be an exhaustion gap.
Yep.
That it got filled after a breakdown, and we're trading back above those lows.
Hmm.
I think yeah, I think that red candle cleaned everyone out who was holding it. So everyone who was holding it, with 7 stops, they're gone. They got flushed, and now we're still back at 7, and should come in higher. That's a nice trade. I like it.
Yeah. So this
And
one,
it's contrarian. I mean, people are, so discouraged,
oh
waiting
yeah.
for legislation, waiting for uh, these companies to be able to write off things, to have bank accounts. Uh, you know, People that see that they're making money. A lot of these companies, they can't get listed off the Nasdaq. I have a friend who has laid out the whole bullish narrative, and maybe it's time.
Yeah. So I think, like, to be honest, like, I have not
Oh
traded
yeah,
these stocks in maybe like 6 months, but
yeah,
today is literally the first day
and that's
that I'm
something
like,
I brought it up. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm looking at it now, but to be honest, like, the chart is broken. This is something that I would be trading at this point with smaller size. Earlier, when I was looking at this thing, the chart, if you look over here, we're starting to look a lot better. We were
yeah,
getting higher lows, that sort of thing. Now it's really like this is completely bombed out. Maybe if you're willing to hold for the longer term, maybe like this is an ideal entry point. But yeah, to me, I'm keeping it on my radar. We'll see what happens.
Okay, anything in energy that's piqued your interest at all? Because they've been getting cheap.
Yeah, so energy is another one. There's this one I've traded a few times over the past couple of years, Occidental Petroleum, just
Yeah,
because I know Warren Buffett has been accumulating this stock. So this is another one as well. Like if you look at it here, we are getting towards this prior support level. So this is definitely interesting. Like I noticed there's a lot of groups right here that they all look very interesting. They're all hitting like longer term support levels.
yeah.
So this is good. When I trade this one, I primarily sell put options in it. And that's typically my trade for Oxy and these energy stocks. But to be honest, like if we end up getting sort of like that blue wave trade, clean energy perhaps could get interesting. So I'm putting that back on my radar. You know, again, clean energy and cannabis, they're so bombed out. I don't think anyone is looking at these. But if they start to show some relative strength, let's say in today's session or like in the next week or two, I'll probably jump into some of these like blue wave trades.
Okay. Do you think that that we had a capitulation move Monday, and what do you make out of the fact that on a 10, not even a 10% pullback in the S&Ps, the VIX went to 60?
Yeah, that was fascinating to me. So to me, what that told me is there were probably a lot of players that were shorting volatility. And we were just in this market environment where it was like buy the Magnificent Seven stocks, you can't go wrong. You know, Nvidia is just going to keep going up and up and up. And I think there were just so many players that kept adding to those trades and adding to them. So I really think this incident we just had, it was almost like a Volmageddon, where I think
Yeah,
the
it
selling was
was.
largely mechanical.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's crazy. Now I see the VIX is coming off quite a bit. So to me, that's a really encouraging sign that the VIX, you know, didn't hang around up there in the 60s.
yeah. Does it say anything to you about market fragility,
Definitely. Yeah, I think the longer we remain in,
liquidity?
yeah, the liquidity is insane. I think,
Because
yeah, go
Andrew,
ahead.
I trade TLT too, but I
Okay.
remember when the TLT chart did not have dots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they used to be full-bodied candles. Now you
Mm.
have sessions. Look at all these sessions where you have like no range.
Yeah.
They're just dots. They look like one of the most liquid deep markets on the planet has candles like a bulletin board stock where
Yeah, it
you have to
is.
make an appointment to trade it.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. And I
Yeah, it
think it's just,
smooths out with a weekly, but you look at that daily, and then even
uh-huh.
like go to a 4 hour, and there's a lot of space. Uh, you could watch it, and it won't trade for a few seconds.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and
So
this
it's
TLT,
not.
this is the most liquid one as well.
Yeah, and look at that chart.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes,
mean,
this is
do you
interesting.
remember the early days when you looked at bulletin board and things like that? And I think the expression was, "Do I have to make an appointment to do a trade in this?"
Yeah, I wasn't around for bulletin boards, but yeah, that was
Pinks, altcoins, same type of thing,
mhm.
where you just have no liquidity. And it looks like on the bottom there's volume, but maybe that's not the kind of volume they used to get. Um, anyway, that's my problem with the liquid instrument starting to look like a penny stock.
Mhm.
Technically, not. I'm not, it's not a comment on bonds. It's a comment on the chart.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, so I've been looking for the tightness here to develop because as you mentioned, like it's been trading so sloppy. So that's a lot of what I look for when something is sloppy and it starts to tighten up more. That's usually when the supply and demand dynamics are more so coming in line. And then you can get moves like this that are very explosive.
yeah. Okay. What else is on the menu? Tech stocks, do you think even if we have a recovery in tech that it's a rally to sell?
Yes, so I'm so glad you brought this up. So I think the tech stocks play directly into the S&P 500 and potentially getting back to the highs in the S&P 500. Because I know that's like the big question on everyone's minds. Like, we're down here. How quickly do we get back up here? And then same thing for the NASDAQ as well. With the NASDAQ, how quickly can we get back to these
So do you
highs
think new
all the
high
way up
people
here?
think new highs are a layup from here?
I believe so, because that's kind of what we've all been fed. Like every time the market
So
dips, it just
isn't
rips
that
right
too
back.
pat? Is it too pat that we did lots of damage, more than we did in April.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering. I think that maybe the S&Ps could
Hmm.
make new highs, but I look at tech, the SMH, and
Yeah.
that's broken to me. Now
Oh
this is
yeah.
NASDAQ. Look at SMH.
Yeah. This thing
Okay,
looks
you
like a
had
train
five
wreck.
waves down. Yeah, give me let the market, be a great tell.
Hmm.
If NASDAQ or S&Ps are making a new high,
Hmm.
and all we get is a retracement move in the semis, like back to 260 or so,
Hmm.
that would be a nice warning sign about the rest of the market because this led
Definitely.
it all the way up.
Definitely. So this is for sure a group to keep on the radar
Yeah.
because I do believe if this group doesn't lead us higher, like if technology doesn't lead and those mega caps don't lead, then we need some other group or even multiple smaller groups to pick up the baton. And so far,
Oh,
we're just not
that's
seeing
a
any
Russell.
evidence.
That's a Russell, Andrew. It broadened out.
Yeah, look at this.
Russell. Oh,
Complete.
didn't it broaden out?
Yeah, complete
It
retracement.
broadened out the bottom.
Hmm. But yeah,
What
I
what do you think? Would you buy Russell here?
no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I
Why?
think
I mean, 2 weeks ago everyone loved it. Why? Tell me why? Because it had a false breakout,
yeah,
and
I
now we're
think
at support.
yeah, I think with all of these, um, this is like a big red flag for me. If an asset breaks out and then it completely retraces the breakout like it did
Yeah,
here, that's a red flag. If we were looking for like a very nice, healthy continuation to just start right now, and we were assuming this was just like a buyable dip, I
yeah,
would think that this wouldn't do a full retrace. Maybe it would
yeah,
retrace like 25% of the move, or maybe even half of the move. But a
yeah.
full retrace is you're basically starting off at square one, and then you have bag holders up
Yeah.
there, so potentially even less than square one. Um,
What kind of bags, Andrew, do bag holders hold now? Is it paper or plastic?
I don't know, probably the plastic or something. Or those like
You know,
recyclable ones you have to pay for now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I hope they punch a hole in it before they put it over their head so they don't suffocate. Um, all right. Anything you're seeing in, people have been crying in their soup about uranium positions. Um, uranium stocks have really gotten hammered, and there was a big following of them. No wonder they're crying. Okay, so here's another broken sector.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, so with these, I think it really depends like what kind of trader you are. Because like for me, I look at this and there's really like nothing to trade unless I'm like a mean reversion trader and I'm going like, okay, let me slap my Bollinger Bands on here. Okay, we're hitting the 3 standard deviation Bollinger Band. Maybe I have a strategy in place where like
yeah,
I buy at the bottom band, maybe I sell somewhere in here. I think unless that's your style of trading, which can be an amazing style, I don't really think there's a trade here. Like if you're like a trend follower, a lot of the trades in the market are just completely busted. So I think it's really about
yeah,
like waiting because I know this is the thing. Every trader wants to predict the market. So a lot of people are like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, let me just buy all this stuff. What I try to do is look at what is being bought up first, look at what's behaving a little bit better, And you don't have to be like the first one in. Like you can always wait to see, what's showing some relative strength. So I can show you the one trade that I'm working on. It's actually my biggest trade right now. It's another one I've been in and out of all year. Alibaba right here. So if you look
Interesting.
at Alibaba, like look at this chart compared
Yeah.
to, SOX or Russell 2000 or uranium that
Yeah.
we just looked at.
Yeah.
This one, of course, like on the weekly chart, this thing has fallen off a cliff. But if we look here, it's starting to look more like a bottoming pattern.
Yeah. Two higher lows.
And if you look at the last
Yeah.
two sessions,
Yeah.
Alibaba opened up right on the dead lows. And of
Yeah.
course, yesterday we got some afternoon selling and pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But Alibaba, this is my biggest position right now. And I was fortunate I didn't take a drawdown in this big sell off. So I had like that clarity and I stepped up to the plate and bought some the other day towards the low end of this candle. They have earnings coming up on August 15th, and I'm probably going to hold through that earnings report.
Okay.
So yeah, this one
So you
is,
like China here? That's you're contrarian.
yeah, I
I don't
like
think most
Alibaba.
people, everyone's talk about China, the end of the world for China, and a lot of the Chinese stocks look okay.
Yeah, a lot of them are starting to look good. Like this one here, Billy. I'm not as
So maybe
familiar with this
maybe
one.
China liked the revaluation of the yen. It didn't seem to affect the carry trade. Didn't seem to have impact on it.
Agreed. And sometimes I kind of laugh about it. I'm like, maybe it's just because
That's
like
interesting.
everyone is out of this group and like no one even owned it to sell it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Billy. It's so different than the other charts that we were
Yeah.
just looking at.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one as well,
So
10-cent music. This one was a massive leader. This kind of looks more like the other charts, right? Where it
yeah, a
did
little
get
broken. Yeah.
bombed out, but you can
Yeah.
see it's very quickly getting to the
Right.
bottom of this base here. So
The
yeah, this
metals are
group I
the
like.
metals are doing that too. Is there anything in mining? Maybe you could wrap up anything in mining that you like. I know uranium got killed. Certain silver stocks they're in a big retracement move. Okay, I'll go with GDX. GDX looked like it was breaking down, and it's had that 2-day recovery. You know what I've noticed, and I talked about it, Andrew, that yesterday's lows
Mhm.
across the board are really really important. A lot of them
Yes.
held 200-day moving averages. Um, so we've had a hold and a bounce, and we're
Mhm.
getting another bounce today.
Mhm.
Um, but watch out below if we take out Monday's lows and everything. Okay. That's the way I see the market. Otherwise, I have to keep an open mind. It's not where I would sell it yet, but 5,400 S&Ps might be worth a shot. The GDX, yeah, see, it looked like a breakdown, and now we might be getting a false breakdown. So
Yeah.
if that low gives away in gold, which I was, looking for, um, yesterday looked like it would happen. Today, not. The shares acting better. I
Mhm.
would love to see, 32, 31 on
Mhm.
GDX for back up the truck.
Agreed. Yeah, and there's not many bag holders here, which is so important. So I think at this
Yeah.
juncture, there's two different kinds of trades. One kind of trade is let me go for something that is incredibly bombed out, that I think is too bombed out. Maybe I like the group, like the sector, and I'm playing for that mean reversion because it got way too overdone. That's like one flavor. And then the other flavor is let me look at what didn't get absolutely killed because that's showing the real relative strength and could be a leader. So
Exactly.
I'll put GDX in that category.
And you know what? I was looking at NVIDIA, Andrew, and it looks just like this. And they're two completely, well, kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Gold it was shorter, but NVIDIA still looks like that was just three waves.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nvidia,
ABC.
it doesn't look as bad as you would think based on like the
Yeah,
news and just how
yeah,
how everyone's acting. Yeah, the earnings are going to be huge on this one.
yeah. Wild time. These are really, if someone said that the markets are boring to me, and I go, gosh, if you find like, historic moves in VIX and, everything happening in bonds and currencies and energy, these are wonderful markets for traders.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is fantastic volatility, and that's where you can earn some good P&L if you're smart and if you're flexible. In a high vol environment,
Yeah.
traders that don't obey their stops or their discipline,
Oh
those
yeah.
traders get exposed.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's super important. Last thing I'll leave you off on here. This is
Okay,
the big
Andrew.
thing I'm watching for next week is take a look at
Okay.
this. So this here, I always write about really like my full game plan over the weekend.
Yeah,
But
that's when
this,
I do my work.
yeah, so this
Markets are
is
close.
absolutely. So CPI is going to be out next week. And if you look, like, let's just say we're technical analysts, let's do technical analysis on the CPI. The low print for the year over year CPI was 2.97%, and we are testing that low. Next week, we're going to get a new number. My view, my speculation is the number is going to come out light because even if you look at the Trueflation dashboard, it's cratering. Crude oil, as we saw, cratering. Uranium, energy, those things are deflationary. If this year over year CPI next week comes out, let's say this thing moves to 2.8, 2.7, breaks a new low, I think that will be a bullish catalyst for bonds. So that's why, as we mentioned at the beginning of this program, I'm going to be buying into this gap fill right here. So
All right.
that's what I'm playing for next week.
Okay. Because we should take out the high all the way to the left. And
That's my
the
thesis.
weekly could go to, 110.
Indeed. Yeah, my thesis is, and it's not anything complex, if inflation moves to a new low, then hey, this TLT, why can't it move to a new swing high? So we'll see
Okay.
how it works out, but that's
And
that's the logic.
this time the market likes it and blows to a new high into September, October.
hmm
You think so?
New high in September, October for TLT or for equities. I missed that.
Yeah, for S&Ps.
For S&Ps, I really think we're going to have to wait for the next earnings cycle of the Mag 7 stocks. I
Okay.
think I don't see any way of us getting back to those old highs when all these companies just reported earnings and they all like whiffed their earnings reports and institutions didn't like it. So that's why I think as active traders, the beauty is we don't have to be trading just the mega cap tech or just the headline indices. I think there's going to be other areas like even this Upstart put up a really good earnings report. And look at this thing, it's up 24%. So I think in this environment, it's all about what you're trading and just focusing
Yes.
on stuff that's not
Selection.
dive bombing. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, stock selection, stock
hmm
picking,
Yeah.
screening a lot of things to find compelling setups.
hmm
That's what we do, huh, buddy?
Exactly.
So, do you want people to follow you? You have an interest in it? You had that. You have a service, Andrew? I mean, you were showing things from your writings. Where can people go to keep in touch with your thoughts and your tactics?
Yeah. If you go to pristinecapital.substack.com, every single night I put all of my evening homework in a research note for investors and traders. And then every weekend I do the same thing. All of my homework, all of my research, I put into a research note and I send it out to subscribers.
Beautiful. Okay. What's the fee for your stuff?
It's $20 a month. It's dirt cheap, but I am going to have to raise it because it's weird. I want people to join, but I also don't because I'm so focused on the investing championship. I like to keep
Yeah.
it like very low noise. So
Yeah.
yeah, right now it's $20. I love
Yeah.
doing it. I've met some awesome people doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, definitely
I
check me
know.
out there. I'm on Twitter as well.
Yeah. Check them out. Andrew, we've been talking for a few years. I want to thank you for your giving spirit. You come out here, you talk about your trading and what you're doing, and you give us good look aheads of what you're considering. Appreciate it because I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, a lot of time. So check Andrew out at Real Pristine Cap on X and go to his Substack and keep in touch with this guy. He has some really great takes on what's happening. You're the first guy that talked about blue wave trades today.
Thank you
So
so much.
good stuff, bro.
Thanks so much,
And
Dale. I always appreciate hopping on with you.
all right, Andrew O'Connell, everyone, follow him. And in 15 minutes, you could join the team on the Morning Edge. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. See everyone tomorrow. Good hunting. I'm bearish Canada, bullish Aussie. Just beginning. Andrew, thanks, buddy. My trading warrior brother. Take
Take
care.
care.
All right. You're welcome, Laura. Yeah, NVIDIA next month. There's always something next month, isn't there? There's usually something next week. Today is the most critical day in the entirety of market history since the 1700s today. Who knew that? Very important anniversary. Every day. Every day is. All right. I'm hitting the showers. See you guys. Take a look at that Canada. I'll see you.